So it's my pleasure to welcome my friend Dan Brown to the show. Dan, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Man, it's been 12, 13 years since the old time sitting in the break room at Wyndham and bullshit. I mean, man, it was a crazy time. It was a wild time. I wouldn't change it. It was a lot of fun. Don't remember a lot of it, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was an absolute blast. Even my first exposure, I know you had some experience before that, which I want to get in on, but my first exposure to, asking for someone's business, right? Someone's hard-earned money. That was like the most nerve-wracking thing in the world to me until it happens. And you're like, oh, okay. Like that's the other side of all that, like fear was kind of nothing. But, with the Sphere Rocket audience, and this is, a testament to Justin's background with EXP and doing some single family real estate stuff. I know your involvement with Ryan Stewman as well. You're a little familiar with our brand, but we've always naturally, when we veered away from it a little bit over the last couple of years, but very heavy real estate presence. So I think a lot of your content, your story, your testimony here is going to resonate with our audience quite a bit. But you always weren't in real estate. I want to cover a lot of your sales background before, and keep me true here because I'm trying to go off my memory, which is never a good idea. But one of the first times we met, I think we were in your car. You popped your trunk and you had like $500,000 of watches in the back of your car. Yeah. I'm like, dude, someone's going to rob you or shoot you. God forbid. I'm like, have protection. Did you drop out of college and you worked at Zales, the diamond store at the Grand Strand Mall in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? Tell us about that whole experience. You were wheeling and dealing since you were a teenager.
Yeah. So my first, before I got into Zales, I was slinging sneakers and bussing tables. I mean, literally had no sales background in my life, nothing like that. I was dating a girl. Her manager was like, man, hey, you need to get into sales. Like, you're a clean cut guy. Like, you need to get into sales. Come work for me. So I sold jewelry, and literally I never thought, like, once getting out of jewelry, like I'd ever be back in it. However, Wyndham was a blessing because hell, everybody had money and everybody wanted to look good. So, it was literally like first day, like, oh, he's in jewelry. Everybody's like, oh, let's go. I'm like, oh crap, here we go. So I was in sales for a while. I started just as like a regular person, like salesperson. Then you become like a key holder, and then where you can start showing a lot of other things. And man, it was cool because in like the diamond world and the watch world, right? It's always somebody's trying to impress somebody else, right? Whether it's buying a necklace for a girlfriend, buying an engagement ring. And I learned really early on is like everybody wants a carrot or 3 months of salary. And we got every range. I got people who are like, yeah, my 3 month average is $3,000. And then you have this dude that comes in one day, and this leads into the timeshare. He's like, oh, my 3 month average is 90 grand. What do you have diamond wise that's 90? And I'm like, well, we're going to have to order that in because we don't have anything. Like, our biggest diamond was like $30,000. Like, it's just not big enough. And I'm like, notes taken. What the hell do you do?
Good problem to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you remember Adrian Pickens, so he came in, he bought a couple watches. He always wore like the pinstripe suits, everything like that. And he literally he came in and he's like, hey man, I have a recruiting event I want you to come into. And I'm like, well, what do you do? What is it? He's like, oh, it's timeshare. I'm like, I don't know anything about it. Call my dad. My dad's like, oh, don't do it. Absolutely not. Like, my mom's crying over there, like thinking I'm going to lose my soul to it, which I did. And so I go into it, and these guys, it's like a party, man. And these guys are going nonstop partying. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, come out, come do these things. And I'm like, all right, let's see what it's about. And so I dived right in. I'll never forget. I interviewed with Ray. And he's like, yo, what do you do? And I'm like, I go to college. I go. He's like, yeah, you're just not the right fit. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not the right fit? He's like, yeah, either college or this. And I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll drop out, right? Didn't tell him I actually moved my classes to be like first thing in the morning and then at night. And so timeshare for me went very quickly, man. Like, I showed up, and within 30 days I was TOing tables, which TO is takeover. So I come in as like the manager and come do it. And it happened so quick. And I'll never forget, I went into one of my sales classes at the college, and the guy's sitting there and he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you show up in a suit, you wear a tie, like you obviously are doing some well. I'm like, oh, it's a timeshare. And he's like, how much money are you going to make? And I'm like, I'll make over $100,000, this year. And he's like, yeah, you don't need to be here. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you don't need to be here. I don't even make $100,000. Like, why are you taking notes and lessons? And I was like, all right, fine, I'm out. And literally walked out of the class. Years later, he actually interviewed to come work for me, which was crazy. But that was the end of actually going to college and doing jewelry other than like here and there. And then obviously once I got into Wyndham, everybody found out that I was in sales, like in jewelry sales. So like I would call my diamond guys, I call my watch guys, like, hey, what do you got? Like, let me get I had literally had a solid gold Rolex. And I brought it in. I think that sold within like 3 days. I sold one of the guys a 4-carat diamond ring with my first 45 days there. It kind of went hand in hand because everybody there wanted to be big and bling and everything like that. And it worked out really, really well for me. And it was a crazy, crazy experience for sure.
Yeah, it was always I don't know, a great training, a great segue into sort of like anything. And I remember even personally, I think I was just under there as a summer intern for 90 days. And I went to the job fair at our school that was like, I got to work. Like, it's either going to do this or I'm going to keep bartending. I was like, let's just see what it's got. And I'm sure there was more, in my memory's probably hazy, but the two like counterpart stands at the job fair was Wyndham and Waffle House. That was the only two. It was like the Waffle House, like corporate training internship stuff. Yep. And I don't know if you know my background. I come from the restaurant industry, or that's like why my parents lived in Myrtle Beach when my parents met in Myrtle Beach and the whole thing. Okay. But my dad still to this day works in restaurants. So I grew up washing tables, baskets, like wiping floors. And I was kind of like, I've done that. And it's Waffle House. That seems like it's 24/7. Like, probably not for me. I guess I'm going to go over here. And that's the rest is history. And we got to meet. But you, I guess timeshares transition you to get into real estate, using your sales background from everything. And there's a guy, he came to one of our business classes at some point and spoke on, entrepreneurship, success, like the whole thing, drove a Maserati, had a nice suit, nice haircut. And I'm just like, whatever, I'm in. Like, whatever this guy says, I'm in right now. I'm like, hand him my resume. And his name was Blake Sloan, who was a Coastal Carolina alum, which I don't know if you know this, I interviewed there. I ended up moving back to Florida, but I almost stayed in Myrtle Beach and probably would have gotten to real estate, I think. It was the only place I ever got a job interview for, of like having a career outside of, after getting my undergrad. But if that was I guess brokerage could be the right term, but again, correct me, that, you got your foot in the door and rose really quickly. Tell us about that. Like, what was that experience like?
It was crazy. So when I was stepping out of timeshare, I reached out to Blake because we both went to Sockasty, knew him. And so I was like, hey man, I think I want to get into it. I interviewed with him and he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I went into Wyndham, gave my 2 weeks notice, and they're like, hey, we don't do 2 weeks. You got to go. And I'm like, oh shit. And I literally, they walked me out the door. Everybody's sitting there asking me like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I got let go. I tried to give 2 weeks, but here I am. And so I called Blake and I'm like, what do I do? He's like, well, you don't have a real estate license, because at Wyndham, you don't have to have a real estate license. Yeah. So I'm like, what do I do? And so that day I called Pinnacle Real Estate and they're like, yeah, we actually had a class that started today. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. They're like, you can come now and make up the hours. And so I show up there and literally it was so funny. I'm the only person wearing a suit, like fully kitted, everything like that. And everyone's like, who's this asshole that just showed up halfway through the class? And man, it was a whirlwind, right? I was there 3.5 years. I handled the majority of the buyer side transactions, developed, I think when I left, I had 11 agents underneath me there. And so it was a whirlwind. It was a lot, and it was a lot of fun. First year in real estate, I sold 41 houses. My second year, I sold over 60. My third was 80. And for me, it was a learning lesson, a lot about owning systems and having your own stuff. And for me, that kind of branch out when I left Blake was the fact that I wanted to go to North Carolina. I wanted to open up a brokerage. I wanted to be in Ocean Isle Beach, which I love. I have property there. I have a rental company there now. And it was honestly probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make because me and Blake were so tight. Like we literally, I was with him 40 to 60 hours a week for 3.5 years. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. The lesson still to me, at the end of the day, if you're not going to put work in, you're not going to succeed. Right. So that was a lot of time there.
Yeah. I want to drill on that because it seems like that was just a great experience that molded you to who you are now as, the business owner and everything that you're doing, which we'll get into. But you mentioned so much that you learned. Key in on a story for us. Again, I like telling stories. Jesus taught through parables, right? So for every good teaching point, there's probably a great story behind it. Tell us about your experience or any great story that you feel like was a focal learning point for you at such a young age.
Ooh. So probably for me, the biggest story, he used to say this thing, and it was that you hired me to sell and market your house, and I'm not a magician. Okay. And so what he means by that is that we can do all the right marketing. We can do all the right exposure. We can list it where we feel it is. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to, collaborate with us, if they're not going to listen to us on pricing, we just can't pull something out of our hat and make it happen. And the reality of it just goes back to like pricing is so important. Placement, the right time. That is one of the biggest things that is my learning lesson there is the fact that like, if you don't from very first, right, if you don't price something correctly and it doesn't go through, nothing else really matters, right? The market dictates what somebody's going to pay for the property. You can do shiplap like this behind me. You can paint, you can do all these things. But if it's not in line with what the market and the pricing is, and it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not a magician. And the reality is they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get upset. They're going to go somewhere else. But if we would have just priced it correctly from the first time, you would have been able to actually get it sold.
And did you have, an experience with that where either it came in at the right price and crushed or came in at the wrong price and you needed to pivot and make adjustments? What was, an experience within that story?
Yeah, both, right? So, you have people because we were right after. So I got into real estate in December of 2014, November, December 2014. So we still had a lot of foreclosures, right? So people would be making offers at like 50% off on foreclosures and on residential housing. I'm like, you guys, it doesn't work this way. Like we can do this all day long. I'll do the paperwork, no problem. You hired me to do a job, but like it doesn't make sense. And so learning from that is like, hey, listen, we'll make this one offer at this price. However, when it gets denied, rejected, or they tell you to fuck off, we're going to go back at this price. And this, you just have to trust me based on this. And you lost some people went other directions. But a lot of the times they're like, well, how do you know? I'm like, well, I studied the market. I literally know every single thing. I know the micro, the macro numbers. I know what's going on in specific communities compared to a general community. And I tell you what it's going to be priced at. Just because you don't like the paint color doesn't mean that it's, a $30,000 price reduction. It just means that you need to paint the damn house yourself. And that's one of them. With the other side on the listing side, man, we've taken it where, they want to be here in pricing, but we're really here. And so what happens is you take it here, and then by the time that you can get close to here, they're like, oh, you just can't sell the house. And it's like, well, this is where I told you to list, and this is what it's going to sell for. Just because you think it's worth here, it's actually worth this. And so, that goes into, what we do now is like extreme communication, right? We show them the statistics, we show them, we do where we price things, whether, we always try to negotiate, where, hey, this is where you want to be. This is where the market is. If we don't get X amount of showings, if we don't get enough interest, if we get no offers at a dedicated time point, you agree that we're going to reduce it down to this price, right? And so those lessons have stuck with us, in the ability to where we kind of take it where if a person comes on as, a listing and they say, hey, I want to be able to get X. If it's not realistic and we don't have a clear path to get it to within the parameters that actually match our listing synopsis, we just don't take it. We lose some business that way. But the reality of it is that we're not the right fit, because I can't, we invest a lot of money for every single one of our listings, whether it's, professional photography, video, Google ads, Facebook ads, retargeting, the other partnerships we have with a lot of the other websites. And it's the hard part where if we're not going to be able to recoup our money that we put out within 45 to 65 days, it's just not the right fit. Yeah. So I tell them, hey, go call this agent, call these other people. They will list it all you want. Now, in 45 days, when you're frustrated and you actually want to list our advice, give us a call. And that happens. Yeah. People get frustrated. They called me back. They're like, they took cell phone pictures. I'm like, well, that sucks. You hired somebody that was doing it at your price, and you're upset that they wouldn't invest money because they knew it wasn't going to sell. At my price, I'll invest as much money as I possibly can to get it sold, where it might be a net even at the end of the day, but the reality is it's another sold underneath our name.
For sure. And even just the ripple effects that comes of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great advice too. I want to, it's a slight detour, and I'll come back to you. But as a side note, and even just me being curious as a human and kind of ADD, mentioned you study the market vigorously, which following you on social media for as long as I have, it's very apparent that you do. Where do you assess right now this recording, which is what, July 2026? Real estate's been the most volatile asset, like post-COVID. It's just weird, right? I guess not volatile. Yeah. But how do you assess it nationwide right now? Obviously, you know a lot of like the coastal markets with, you know, your locations in North Carolina, South Carolina. Maybe you could address both, right? I'm sure we have listeners and viewers in that area, but how would you address like a state of the union quickly of kind of when's the crash happening, Dan, is what I want to know. Yeah.
And I've been waiting for the crash since 2014. If I had, I don't have one in here, but if I had a magic ball, you know, the hard part about it is that our prices are still increasing, right? So like after COVID, we had a 14 to 21% increase around the coast. And so there's a study that came out that said Myrtle Beach in general, right? So that's our hub, right? So we cover from, you know, Pawleys, Georgetown, sometimes Charleston, all the way up to Wilmington, North Carolina. So Myrtle Beach in general, we're in a deficit of almost 5,000 homes, even with all the new construction. We're in a deficit.
That's crazy.
It's insane. And so where a lot of people and a lot of sellers are saying like, hey, you know, we bought at X, we think that we should get 14% more or 21% more because that's the numbers that it's been for so long. I mean, we're seeing, you know, depending on market, depending on specific neighborhood, right? So like generalized terms of our market, we're seeing a 7 to 8% increase year over year. And I expect that to increase now. The problem we're running into is that people are still pricing like it's COVID, which, you know, hey, depending on what your home has, what the lot is, because there's no more land, right? So if you have a really good lot, sure, we can actually, you know, expose that of what it is. And then, you know, you can go buy a home that doesn't back up to water for the same price. However, you get a premium lot here. You get a better fence. You get a better, you know, sunlight exposure. Morning, you actually get sunrise, and, you know, on the front porch, you get sunset, right? Like those are the things that we kind of expose when we go through it. The bigger side of it all is that a lot of people are just continuing to say it's an increase. What I'm scared about and what terrifies the shit out of me every day is the fact if we have another COVID-like scenario. And so what I mean by that is that already affordable housing is at its bare minimum right now, right? The entry point when I bought in 2015, I bought my first house for $174,000. I got a 3.25% interest rate, and it was awesome. Right? It was great. Now, flip to COVID. Now, COVID, you know, they were at 2.25 to 3.25 on regular loans and jumbo loans. And so the hard part is if we run into it where our pricing already is high, if we run into another scenario where interest rates get below 4% or back to like that in the 2s and the 3s, man, I don't know what's going to happen to pricing. I mean, you're probably talking about another 30% increase. And I mean, that's a big number. It's a huge number. But the thing is, now people are able to afford so much more of a property. They're, instead of increasing by, you know, their buyer pool's $15,000 increase, they're talking about $150,000 increase. The trouble we're running into more than anything is all the people during COVID where they couldn't qualify for a normal 30-year loan. They took 5 and 7-year ARMs. And now, since COVID, they're coming to expire where they get to prime plus a point. And so, you know, people that have been paying these mortgage payments at 3.25%, and for 5 years, now all of a sudden they're going to get hit with a 7.5% interest rate. So their mortgage is going to go from $2,000 a month to $4,000 to $5,000, and that's where you're seeing a lot of these inventory in some of the higher end communities where they could afford it. It was realistic to them. They did an ARM with the hopes interest rates would go back down, and they were refinanced, and it's just not the case. So you're seeing a lot of turnover that way. But my biggest concern, man, is that if we run back into a COVID-like era and interest rates drop down in, the mid threes, pricing's going to explode, and it's just going to tighten it up even more. And the affordability index, it's just no longer there.
That's bananas. And even looking at kind of what you just said, I think a lot of those loans, correct me if I'm wrong, again, I'm like a very novice at this, but was it a lot of builders that were giving out adjustable rates like that? So it's like,
Yep.
brand new homes from the 450s at 2.99 with an asterisk that's like, oh yeah, it goes up. But I mean, banks, it's different, right? It's not like another Big Short scenario, but it is happening from independent lenders. That's not the right way to say it, but
no, it's even more so like, some of the big box brands did it. They're still doing it where they're doing ARMs to this day, or they're doing buy down rates where, big company that starts with an L that's nationwide, they're offering a program. I think, what is it called? I have it because they quoted me the other day on one of my sellers. What is it called? So they call it their NFC. In the NFC, to get a 4.87% 30-year loan is the cost of 8% of the loan. So, and people are doing it. People are paying that much money to be able to get a better interest rate because they don't know if interest rates are going to go back down. And so the biggest problem that we run into is the fact that people are going through and not able to make a valuable kind of decision, and the ability where they are taking advantage of those. They're taking advantage of the ARMs, and ultimately, like, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but the reality is if you can't afford that huge payment of what it will look like at a prime rate plus a point, I don't think that you should buy those homes, because I can't tell you if your rates are going to go back down to 3.5% or 4%.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny. I've got a group chat with a group of friends, and we discuss all this kind of stuff. And it's called NFK, which stands for nobody effing knows, right? It's just like we're like, I don't know, theorize all day, throw it around. But anyhow, thanks for that aside. Back to you, because you mentioned, I want to dig deep into this because we have a lot of our community is all really business owners, entrepreneurs, and it's always great to reminisce and tell these types of stories. And for the people who are listening, who are wanting to make that jump, just as you did, you said it was the hardest decision you've ever made. Being a top producer, again, Google Sloan Realty Group, Blake Sloan, shout out. But going off onto your own, like, what was that journey like? Were you married at the time with kids? I don't remember how it exactly lined up, but I know that's something you didn't take lightly and kind of freaking scary, and to be honest with you.
Yeah. 100%. So it was scary, right? I was married. We didn't have kids yet. But what kind of went through my mind is the fact. So I kind of went through the deal flow, right? So how many deals did I self-generate compared to company generate, right? So pros and cons to be able to see what the difference is and what the split difference was. So what I went to Beach Realty Group then, and I opened up basically a franchise or a satellite office firm in Ocean Isle. And one of the things that I looked at is, like, I could do a quarter of the business, a quarter, right? 1/4 of the business, and I'd make the same amount of money by making the switch. And it was one of the things for me that I was like, all right, hey, am I willing to bet on myself, right? Am I willing to say that, hey, my lead generation, my website, my connections, will I be self-sufficient for me to do a quarter of the deals for the next 5 years? And, obviously, we had plenty of conversations. I met with plenty of people. I got offers from other brokers and other offices like, hey, we'll do this. You can do this. And I was like, no, you know what? I want to go through this. So Beach Realty Group obviously is now Innovate Real Estate, who I'm currently with, or my team's underneath. one of the things that just kind of went through me is like, they're like, yeah, we'll do whatever you want to do. We'll give you whatever you want. You want to have your office, we'll help you out. We'll do this. So they bet on me big time, right? And they continued after, moving around to a couple other places. When I got bought out by another company, they welcomed me back. But like for me, man, it was pros versus cons, right? It was that, hey, can I take a brand that nobody knows about in North Carolina, and can I say, hey, we're the #1 independent brokerage in Myrtle Beach, and I see a deficit and a need in Ocean Isle to Wilmington, and I can tell you why you guys aren't getting showings, why you guys aren't getting exposure, why you're not being able to do it. So we're taking what we're doing in Myrtle Beach and we're bringing it to this area. And I bet on myself. And my first year over there, I did my biggest sales volume by myself that I ever had. I had the biggest year. I mean, I was making, at Sloan or in general, like my biggest year, I think was like $140,000, even though I did a huge volume, right? I bet on myself. And I mean, that first year I did like 380 grand in commission at GCI. And I'm like, yeah, I made the damn right decision on this, right?
Yeah.
It's still not easy, right? Like, I mean, the ability where you're kind of by yourself when you take that journey, right? When yes, I had, the owners and I had everybody talking to me. But it was still because I was 45 minutes away from everybody else. So I had my own little office, nobody else in it, had to make a name for myself. We took 66 listings in our first 30 days. Calling expireds, for sale by owners, canceled listings. And I mean, I literally just said, hey, the easiest way for me to get a name for myself is for me to put signs on listings. And literally, I think I bought 100 signs, and I literally, every single listing, I put 2 or 3 signs on. I'm like, when they drive by, they're gonna be like, who the hell is BRG? And that's literally what we did. I did every single event that you could imagine. I went through and did, every charity that you could think of, every pop-up, festival. I made sure that we had a banner, a tent. I put a surfboard out that had BRG on it. And I mean, it worked out really, really well. And, for me, it's kind of like if you can look at data and you can look at where your lead sources, which reporting is a huge deal, right? And so for me, when I was able to go through and I did the math and I'm like, dude, I could literally not do half of anything. I could put in half the amount of effort. I can spend more time with my wife. I can spend more time now with my family by doing the minimum, right? Just showing up, literally making a couple calls a day and do the same, in which that actually led me to my first, VA back then. Because I figured out, like, if I'm taking this many listings, I can't make 100 cold calls a day. I can't go through these things and be able to still function without having that person. Instead of hiring somebody full-time in the office, I hired my first VA, and that was making cold calls and setting appointments for me. And that way, like, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd see that I had like 6 appointments. I'm like, 6? That's a lot. Can I move them? And I'm like, no, I can't move them. They scheduled them. And that was my first introduction. And it was kind of where I realized then that, like, hey, traditional real estate to a certain extent is old school. And by being able to leverage systems and processes and people, I was able to go so much further, so much faster.
That's the whole testament of our company, right? Why we're trying to build what we're trying to build, to do that and to empower, whether sales professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs back their most valuable asset, which is your time. And as you continue to produce more, you were doing more work, right? You just mentioned every event, you're there, charitable causes. When did you hit the breaking point where you're like, okay, I need some freaking help? Like what was that experience like? What led you to that glass ceiling?
It was when we found out we were pregnant. And what I realized is, like, I can only go so far alone. And the ability for me to manage my time, to manage my schedule, to, make those calls. Like, I'm a religious person as far as it comes to dials. People have the Bible. I have my leads, right? And the reality of it for me, it was like, all right, for me, it used to be that I'd time block between 8 and 11 would be my calling time, right? And then if I didn't have anything, it'd be 4 to 8. And for me, I'm like, well, man, I got to be home. I got to go to the gym. I got to go enjoy life. And so what can I do? How can I leverage all these things? And so I figured out, I was on Facebook, and it's funny is the fact that I don't know if I was in Apex back then, or if I was just in like sales talk with Ryan and somebody was talking about, Philippines, Guatemalans, everything. And I'm like, let me look into this. And so I found a website, went on there, put a little ad. I need a cold caller, like this. I had like 100 people DM me, and I'm like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so I reached out to a bunch of them, and man, that was like that aha moment. It was like, all right, hey, if I can spend, I don't know, a tenth of what I make, and be able to have somebody that is literally making those connections like me. So like my first 30 days, I didn't let them make one phone call outbound. I literally was like, hey, here's our script. Here's what we go through. Here's objections. Here's my system. I'm going to pay you, but I need you to learn these things. And then you got to go through me. You got to make 10 calls with me on the phone where I can interrupt and I can help you out in deal flow. So like I'd have one screen going with, my text messages to them while they're on the phone, like actually texting them like, hey, say this next, do this. And that was 30 days of that. And it was, man, probably the best decision I've ever made. VAs by far, they're the lifeblood of my business. Still are to this day. And the reality of it is like me seeing like, oh, man, I don't have to make those calls. I don't have to spend 6 hours a day on the phone anymore. Or if I do have nothing else going on, I can now double down because they're calling them, I'm calling. That means we just hit double the amount of people that I would by myself for a small investment. And for me, that was it. When I was sitting there, I was able to go to every single one of my wife's OB appointments and sitting there and my phone's dinging with appointments, right? Or that I had transactions that were going through and paperwork's being signed and I'm not having to do it. Like that was a really big wake up call, for me, was the fact that we're able to leverage people to be able to take time away from me. But also now I can double down, triple down on what we're doing by having those systems in place.
That's amazing, man. Appreciate you sharing that with us too. With having those procedures that I presume, and keep me true, that you built, was that a hurdle too? Like creating, whether it's just like, drilling down into tactics, you just have like Google Docs that are, hey, here's the exact steps you do Monday through Friday, or a schedule. What was that like for you? Was that hard? How'd you build that?
Yeah, that was tough, right? And I mean, I'll be honest, I went through a couple different VAs, right?
Yeah, and so have I.
You hear the horror stories. They're real. They are. Yeah. There are those people out there that they're like, oh, my family got, ransacked last night. And you, as a good person, you're like, hey, here's this. And then you figure out that it's a scam. So it was trial and error a lot, right? And so I went through, I want to say 4 or 5 before I found the right person. And really what it was is like, I would document my day. So there's a planner that came out. It's called Passion Planner. It basically breaks down your day in 30-minute intervals from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so what I did for the first couple of days, I literally wrote down every single thing that I did. And what I do with my teammates now, I said, hey, I want you to write down and track your time every 15 minutes. What you're doing every 15 minutes, set a timer that's on repeat for every 15 minutes. And write down what you did. If you're watching a cat video, write down that you wrote a fucking cat video on TikTok, right? Yeah. And so it was tracking time. It was also tracking calls and conversion. So I built a spreadsheet originally that would be like, hey, X amount of calls to X amount of appointments to how many went to a deal to follow up. And we used that for a good 2 years. And we would have, a Google sheet that would go through in a Google Doc where, they would put stuff in. Now, my CRM is my other lifeblood of my business. So when they called somebody, they enter it in, they enter the details, the call's recorded. I listened to it before I went out there, all the steps. Hey, when you connect with somebody while you're on the phone, get their email, send them out our intro card in our listing packet, pre-packet, before it gives them like a little highlight. Send all this to them while you're on a call. And it was very template driven, because the reality is that, what I realized is if I don't show up and they don't have an idea of who I am before I show up, I'm kind of just like everybody else. So I had them, we designed it, we created a intro card that's like literally like a postcard that just gives them the intro to who we are. And then the flip side of it is an actual 3 to 5 page pre-listing package that just goes over like our steps. And then when we show up, we actually have like a full blown 20-page document that we go through to show them like how we do things differently, how we market, we give exposure, the steps that we take with other agents and like carouseling. Like there's a lot of things that go to it. Without those systems in place, without the CRM in place, we would have been dead in the water. And it would have been that they're making calls and they're following up, but like it's dead because they're just one other person.
What CRM were you using?
Sierra Interactive.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. We always get a lot of tactics like, wait, which one? Which, again, I'm sure any CRM would probably work, whatever floats your boat. This one,
whatever one you use the best is going to be the one that you should use. And I've been through all of them, right? I was an affiliate of some of the large brands for a while. One of the biggest ones got bought out by a Chinese company. They put Chinese code inside of their CRM on their website, and Google blocked it. And I was one of the first people, and I dipped. I was like, I'm out. I need to rank on page 1. I need to be able to have my pages indexed. And, that was one of my big things is like, being an affiliate and getting that mailbox money by selling those things was great. Sure. But the reality is people are like, oh, what about website? What about these things? I'm like, yeah, it's great. And then I'm like, oh, crap. No, it's not. Like, you're doing this and it's not working. And so we jumped ship. I'm not an affiliate with them who I use now currently, but I am one of the first people, like if you want a website and you want it to rank well and you're going to actually build content around it, use it. Literally, it's the best thing out there.
I love it. So tell us about your team right now. We haven't gotten into Blue Mahi. I'd love to hear about the branding behind it, what went into it, and how big's your team right now. Tell us about everything.
Yeah. So team in general, actual agents, it's 7, including myself. Let's go back first. So Blue Mahi, about a year. Today is actually my 1 year. My 1 year is Blue Mahi, which is today. Yeah, so I posted on social media. Share it, please.
Cool.
Save it, share it, send it to somebody. Do a lot so that way I can get some views on it. It was kind of like a moment for me where I was an individual agent. So backtrack even more. I left Innovate or BRG. I left BRG. I went to be a district director for a company where they gave me a huge stock option to go work for them. So I left, pursue that. I was the director from Charleston all the way up to Wilmington. But they were more worried, like where I'm more worried about deals and revenue, they're more worried about people underneath them. How many agents can we get? How big can we get? I want you to race to 100 agents. I'm like, well, I just got 100 deals in 3 months. Like, I think that's better than 100 agents. They're like, no, we want revenue. We care about agents that do between 1 and 6 deals a year. I'm like, yeah, it's not the right fit anymore. So at the time I had a team, we left to Remax. My team broke up shortly after that. And I went back to Innovate. And so I had a meeting with the owner, Darren. I'm like, hey, man, listen, I want to start a team again, but it has to make sense for me because I can open up my own shop. I hate to say it, I'm like a brokerage underneath a brokerage just because of the branding, everything. And he's like, well, what will it take? We came to a deal and Blue Mahi launched shortly after. Had a lot of things. So like our market center, as far as like what we do. So we have Coastal Area Guide, right? So basically, which is our community outreach. So coastalareaguide.com is our website. And what we do is we talk about the community events. We go meet with captains. We meet with restaurants. We meet with people that are actually local. And one of the things, the mahi is my favorite fish. So it's the fastest growing fish in the ocean, right? So this is actually a replica of my biggest mahi that I've ever caught.
Nice.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's 42 inches. And so one of the things that I went through is when I'm like, all right, I want a brand. And I've had other brands that all are blue, right? So I have Blue Flamingo, which is a short-term rental company. The roofing company that I'm a partner in is a blue. It's actually Miami blue from the Porsche GT3. And one of the things I was like, you know what? A mahi for me represents like I'm free when I'm out on a boat, right? So I do a lot of boat content. I'm free. It's the fastest growing fish in the ocean. From sun up to sundown, all it cares about is hunting and eating. And I'm like, all right, so let's do mahi. And then I'm like, let's do blue. And literally, and that's where it started. And so we started a year ago today. Obviously, there's some work going into it beforehand. But today is our 1 year mark. So I have 7 agents underneath me. I've had a couple agents leave just because like I took an arm out in Charlotte. Obviously, I can't give the resources when I have an arm in Charlotte. So I put him with somebody that I feel is really good for him. But we have 7 agents, and then I have 3 VAs that are underneath me, plus awesome. 1 local transaction coordinator. So our team, we have some people that are brand new, fresh, have never done real estate before, to somebody that's been in been in business for 40 years. So we kind of have all different sides of it inside of our team. So that way that they can all help out. 3 of my VAs are obviously in the Philippines. 2 of them, all they do is website and content every single day. Their job for obviously our off hours or their on hours for those 2 And their job is to literally find out how I can rank for key terms on page one. So if you go search retire in Sunset Beach, retire in Ocean, retire in Murrells Inlet, retire in Forest Brook, we are on page one. And we basically have it built out now where if we say a keyword within 48 hours, we're typically ranking based on those keywords on page one within 48 hours.
Love that. And it seems to be working extremely well. Have you thought, or I guess maybe even seen in the Blue Mahi transition, have been new learnings, new undertakings? Has it been different from your previous endeavors? And how so?
Yeah, so a lot of it where I used to be so religious about people coming into the office, right? COVID killed that for a lot of people. For me, I used to be, I was an ass, right? Hey, if you're not making calls from 8 to 11, you're not prospecting, you're not doing this stuff, then like you're irrelevant, right? Like you're not doing business. Business has changed. People want to actually see a face. They want to know that you're a local. They want to see that you're out in the community. So we've changed it. So a lot of it where it used to be just me, right? It used to be that I was the face of everything, that I would be the person doing the content. And, with our team now, we do a couple different series, right? Where I'm making the agents be very, very a part of that because, yeah, they can see me, but the reality of it is it's good for them to see everybody else on the team. So now I'm not so much worried about them coming in the office, and, we do speed to lead as well. So it gets sent to everybody's phone, first call, but we get so many people that are coming in and where now they're going out, right? So like we have Tuesday from the tips with Steven. Steven is I think his handicap's a 1.79 or plus 1.79. So, he's incredible. He was a assistant pro and coaches for golf. And so for him, we do Tuesday tips. He goes to a different golf course every single Tuesday, meets with the pro, plays one hole, talks about the community around it, the real estate around it. We have Ask a Realtor where we have 2 to 3 people that go out and go actually out in the community. They did the boardwalk the past 2 weeks. Last week was a little questionable, but they're going out. They're going to do Murrells Inlet. They're going to go do Broadway. They're going to do actual events and community where we just sit there and we answer questions. And it's a series that we're doing on our Instagram and Facebook. Then Thursdays we have our marketing meetings with the whole entire team. A lot of times we'll go out to lunch afterwards. We did the drift video the other day. There's a couple other ones that we have in the works that are coming out where they're able to go out to the community. They're able to try the restaurants and actually show like the local places, not like the franchise ones, but actually show where people want to go. And, it's cool. I do the captain series where I go out with, the fishing charters. We talk about what's biting, what's out there. We do a lot of stuff. If you're in Wrightsville Beach, Pura Vida Excursions, those guys are absolutely incredible. They will put you on fish. That is the one thing. They put you on fish and you'll get out there very quickly. Their boat does about 60 just nonstop in a Freeman. So it's awesome. So where it goes into where I used to be so transactional, right? So like the background for me where, when I was worried about doing deals, so many deals because the average commission was lower based off of splits and volume, I took the whole transaction side out of it. So where now what we are is I care about our clients. I actually, I hate to say it, half the time when I close a deal, I hate that I lose my texting buddy because I literally text them all day long. I tell them about the updates. We have weekly meetings with every single one of our clients now to tell them where we are at, where the analytics are showing, whether we need to do a price reduction. Do we need to get our photographer and videographer back out there? Do we need to send somebody out to do open houses? So now it's changed where they're part of our family. Every single one of our clients that buy and sells, they get a cooler instead of a cutting board or no gift at all. I take that out of my expense, out of the split compared to my agents paying for it. I give that to them. When they do their first deal with me, they're called a Mahi Maniac. They get a cooler. When they do $1 million, they get to pick something in off Yeti website. So $1 million in a month, they get to pick. Madison last month picked a Yeti tote bag so she could take it to showings and put all her stuff in it.
Nice.
One of the guys wants a book bag, so I'm working on trying to figure out the branding with Yeti on it, how to actually get it on there, like heat pressed on. Every single client, when they're done with their transaction, they come sign the fish. So, for me, it's where we've changed it from being just transactional, where they forget about us, right? Where now it's that we're still in their face after the fact. Every single time a new listing goes live, they get a letter from me as the team leader and founder where, hey, thank you so much for taking this journey with us. not only do you get them, but you get me. Here's my personal cell phone number. Call me if you have a question. We're going to do client events September. We're going to do a beach cleanup. So come to Myrtle Beach in September and come get your hands dirty. It's so different, and like we're creating more so of a brand than anything else. And where, I want them where if they want to know what high tide is, they go on our website. If they want to know where the best place to get fiddler crabs, they go to my website. I rank for some random stuff, but it's driving stuff to our website. And the reality of it is where, they might not think of us immediately on our website as like a real estate side, but they're going to see it and they're going to come back because they know that, hey, let's talk about king tides. Let's talk about dock repair. Let's talk about the best lender in the area or one of 3 lenders in the area. They're going to find our stuff, and I think every day we send out close to 16,000 emails. So my email list is 126,000 people, and our actual lead database. So leads compared to email list. Email list gets area content, specifically not real estate related. Obviously, we sprinkle it in there. So that's 126,000, and then our lead database is like 25,000. So 16,000 emails a day is what typically gets out. And we have like a 97% actual delivery rate with an 85% open rate. Which is massive. I mean, it's I've never, I deal with Travis Wade with Blue Door, for a lot of like our retargeting and stuff on our website and automations. And I mean, when we went through it, he's like, those numbers aren't right. I'm like, yeah, they are. This is what I'm seeing from SendGrid. Like, I promise you they're right. And the reputation, like I've went through the pitfall where Google's like, no, you're spamming everybody, right? And so I sent out a video. I'm like, hey guys, listen, I know that you're getting our stuff. Please do me a favor. Do not mark it as spam. If you want to get off, call me. I'll remove you. And so we've cleaned up our email list, our Google authority, by far. And it's changed. Like people's ability now to where they see that it's not just me, it's our team, it's our people that move the line every single day. It's been so important to be able to make that switch and be able to give them something that they're not like. Who's going to say no to a Yeti cooler? I mean, it's an investment. It's probably nicer than the cooler that they have or the styrofoam when they get at the beach.
Sure.
And for them, it's where, my agents don't have to go spend their money doing it, right? Like directly, right? Like one of the things I remember is like, what do I get? Do I get them a cup? Do I get them a book? Do I get them, a thank you card? Like, no, let me do it as part of what I give to them. We just did, you probably saw it, our 250 anniversary for celebrating, America. Like we're giving all of our past clients, there it is. We're giving every single one of our past clients one of those shirts.
I love it.
Our mortgage timeless Nate over there, but Brandon, nice shirt, white or black. They get to come pick it up and sign the fish. We launched that last week, and we've had people come by, and we saw people coming up this past week, coming and next week. And that's one thing that just makes it a little different. It makes them feel like they're part of that family compared to being like, oh, if I close with them, I'll never hear from them again.
No doubt.
We want them to continue to be our partner. We want them to refer us. We want them to do testimonials. We want them to show up to our, our beach cleanup. We want them to show up to our happy hour events where, they can talk to each other, and do stuff. And that's a good feeling now where they're like, damn, I saw the billboard. Hey, I saw something in the mail. I saw your listing video. It's cool to be a year in and kind of getting recognition for it is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see the continued success of that too, right? It's a snowball rolling downhill. It's a compound interest effect, right?
That's right.
See it. Then there's massive gains, but well on your way and already seeing the results of that too. For those we have that are checking this out, how do they follow your journey? What do we send them right now?
Yep. So my personal, if you want to connect with me personal, so I post like 3 pillars on my Instagram and Facebook: life, like my lifestyle, my family, and my business, right? So on Facebook, it's just Daniel Brown. On Instagram, it's Dan Brown MB. And then on Instagram and Facebook for Blue Mahi Real Estate, it's Blue Mahi RE. That's both our handles on both of those.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. To everyone, make sure to go give it a follow and even, replicate this playbook, right? It's kind of like we should have charged for this, actually. For anyone,
I'm an open book, so literally, I people reach out. I'm an open playbook. I can tell you, what the bad things not to do. Don't spend money with, Zillow Leads because you can create your own stuff online. There's so many things that agents can do that don't. Literally, my goal is to collaborate. I want everybody to win. I want people to succeed, and the only way is making it where agents now work together and they collaborate and they do stuff together compared to just kind of just sitting there not doing anything.
No doubt, man. I couldn't agree more. And I appreciate your time. It is insanely insightful. I've taken some ideas with me as well. If I'm ever like squinting as you're talking, that's because I'm like, I'm going to implement that. But I appreciate you, man. It's been awesome to call you friend for this long, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, bud.
All right. See you, man.